So a Moses moment is when you've been given an assignment or task to do, and that assignment or task is bigger than you, and the mandate to perform it is not from you. And immediately at the onset of getting the revelation that this is your assignment, you begin to question, you begin to doubt, you begin to dismiss, you begin to seek distractions to take you from fulfilling that particular assignment because in your mind, you are not worthy. You're listening to the Move to Millions podcast with Dr. Darnyelle Jervey Harmon, the place to be for high-level conversations about all things millions. Your mission, mindset, methodologies, mandate, movement, messaging, marketing, metrics, and most definitely your money. I am your host, spiritual business growth coach, Dr. Darnyelle J. Harmon. Join me each week for inspiring stories, powerful interviews, and business growth strategy to help you experience abundance in your life because of your business. If you're ready to move to your next level everything, let's get this party started. This episode is powered by Move to Millions Live. If you are a millions-minded entrepreneur and you want to know exactly what it's going to take to prepare for rain in your life and in your business, go now to movetomillionsevent.com. I was driving down my car today and I had this big epiphany. You may or may not be aware that I'm currently writing the book. You probably would have guessed the title. Yes, it's called Move to Millions. And in this book, I am chronicling my own journey to and beyond the $1 million mark, not just in revenue in our company, but also becoming a millionaire. And I'm also going to dial back the success clues that I have learned on this journey, while also featuring many of the clients that we have helped to get to and beyond the $1 million mark as well. And so as I'm writing this book, when I was driving in my car today, I had this very, very clear revelation that there's something I need to share with you, and I cannot wait until you are able to read my book. And so in today's episode, we are going to talk about a little something I like to call a Moses moment. Now, if you follow me online, and if you're not following me online, shame on you. You need to go right now and follow me on IG at Darnyelle Jervey Harmon, on Facebook at Darnyelle Jervey Harmon, on Twitter at Darnyelle Jervey. Stop playing, follow me so you don't miss anything that I put out into the world. But if you've been following me for some time, you know that in everything that I do, it's important for me to unpack the spiritual principles that help us individually deepen our connection to God the Father, the creator of the abundant universe, where we get to live every single day, and parlay that into the strategies that we leverage inside of our companies to make more money, doing what we love, and building a business that serves us both financially and spiritually. And so I have to tell you about this phrase, Moses moment. So before I can tell you what it means today, I have to kind of take you back. So the year was 2014. And we were at the next to last, no, it wasn't. I don't know. This was the third Unleash Your Incredible Factor Live. Unleash Your Incredible Factor Live was a marketing and sales conference with a twinge of spirituality, especially by 2014. 2014 was the year that event was deemed a business revival. It was ridiculous. It was amazing. I've never experienced anything like it. And you could not have told me in a million years that I would facilitate an environment for people from all over the world, from all different walks of life, all different religious backgrounds, to be in a safe space, all serving and praising God together. It was the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. At one point in time during the event, we had many of these moments, but at one particular point in time of the event, we had erupted into what I like to call a praise break. And a praise break is when you stop what you were doing, whatever you are focused on, and you just give it up to God, because he is ridiculous and amazing. And the way he shows up and shows out in your life is out of this world. And so we were having one of those moments, and that parlayed into a testimonial service. Now, if you happen to be a listener who is from old school church, you remember testimonial services. Now, I don't know. I don't actively go to church these days. So I don't know if testimonial services are still going on. But if you are familiar with it, if you know, right? And so it turned into this testimonial service, and people were expounding on the revelations that they were getting during this very intentional, but also happenstance moment. Like, I didn't plan for it in the run of show, but it just happened, and it was perfect, and it was ridiculous, and it was amazing. And people were being delivered and set free, and the clarity was coming. It was out of this world. And so at one point in time, my event manager, Tiffany, took the microphone. Now, I had been working with Tiffany. By 2014, we had been working together for about 3 years. And, I knew of her, but I clearly didn't really know her, because for the first time I ever experienced in my life, she took the microphone and the anointing on her life poured through the microphone into the speakers and into the room, and it caused an entirely different eruption. The attendees at the event were able to bear witness to her saying and calling me, Darnyelle Antoinette, a modern day Moses. And I remember hearing her say that. And I remember making a note to self that I needed to go back and I need to refamiliarize myself with the story of Moses in the Bible. And I just remember ever since that moment realizing, like today, and when I talk about telling your story and breaking your story down into the Robert Frost moment and the Sam Cooke moment and the Harriet Tubman moment, I essentially am saying that all of us have the potential to be a Harriet Tubman in our own unique ways. And Harriet Tubman was considered by many to be a Moses in her time frame. And so to hear that revelatory word drop from Tiffany's spirit into the microphone, into the speakers, erupting around the room, that I was a modern day Moses, I immediately got the chills all over my body. I can still remember feeling them to this day, because there's no way you could have told me that I would hold a live event and that at this live event, this spiritual eruption would take place. And so for years following that, this concept of being a modern day Moses, it kind of stayed with me. So let me sidebar for a second. In the event that you don't know what I mean when I say modern day Moses, let me just quickly, and this is the Darnyelle version, go fact check in the Bible, all of the things, right? Get it right, all of that. This is the Darnyelle version. And so it may not be biblically sound entirely. So Moses, I'm going to journey all the way back to his birth. So he was born at a time when the Pharaoh was killing all Hebrew boys. All boys that were born were to be put to death. His mother didn't want that to happen. So she wrapped him, put him in a basket, put him on the river. The Pharaoh's daughter was out bathing and happened upon this basket with this cute little baby in it, took the baby home to raise as her own, and ended up calling the mom without knowing to be the nurse. So the mom still got to raise their son, but under the protection of Pharaoh. Isn't God good? So that's how Moses grew up. There's a point in time when Moses, again, this is the Darnyelle version, is kind of battling with himself. And as a part of this battle, he doesn't feel like he belongs anywhere, right? Like he learns who he is in his story, and just sitting in the hypocrisy of the time under Pharaoh just didn't work for him. And so he runs away. In so doing, he ends up killing a man, which makes him flee even farther. Circa fast forward to the point where God goes to Moses and calls him, right? Talking to Moses, the bush is burning, but the bush is not burning. Like, that's what's happening, right? Moses is like, what? And the devil is going on here, right? Darnyelle's words, not necessarily the Bible. Then the angel appears and tells Moses that God has an assignment for him. And Moses instantly, immediately, like I think so many of us do, begins to question, doubt, downplay, and distract from the words that are coming out of the angel's mouth about his next assignment. Okay, so that's who Moses is. I'm also simultaneously, not necessarily on purpose, but defining for you a Moses moment. So a Moses moment is when you've been given an assignment or task to do, and that assignment or task is bigger than you, and the mandate to perform it is not from you. And immediately at the onset of getting the revelation that this is your assignment, you begin to question, you begin to doubt, you begin to dismiss, you begin to seek distractions to take you from fulfilling that particular assignment, because in your mind, you are not worthy. So that is a Moses moment. And as you hear me define it, how many of you can honestly say that you can recount a time when you had a Moses moment? You know I can, and I'm going to tell you about mine while you think about yours. There's been so many, but the one as of late was just recently at the end of 2020. Now, you've heard me say ever since we've come back with the rebrand of this podcast, Move to Millions, I've talked about it many times. I've told you the story of how on the third day of my live event, God told me the event we were doing at the time, which was called Breakthrough in Business, it wasn't going to be called Breakthrough in Business anymore. And that the new name was going to be Move to Millions, right? And you've heard me say that. And you probably haven't heard me say this part because I only just started writing about it in my book. But first, I was excited and elated. I had the goosebumps and I was like, oh, this sounds catchy. I finally have my movement. I've been wanting a movement forever. Can anybody feel me on that? Like, I remember being around a lot of people who had clearly articulated who they wanted to be and how they wanted to show up in the world and what their movement was. And I couldn't figure mine out for any reason. And finally, when God spoke those 3 words to me on October 23rd, 2020, it immediately was well with my spirit that was my movement, that was my cataclysmic realization of my purpose, and how that decision when I was 10 to use words to change the lives of others had culminated into this experience to show people how to prepare and position so that they could eventually make millions of dollars, move millions of people, and leave millions of dollars to their children's children in the form of a legacy, right? And you've heard me share that before because legacy is financial. And as excited as I was, as the hairs on my hairy arms were beginning to come down from their high over these 3 magical words, it hit me. I'm not worthy. Maybe God should send someone else, similar to how Moses found excuse for why he shouldn't be sent and offered up his brother or someone else to go in his place. Now, I didn't go so far as to offer up someone else to go in my place, but I did vacillate temporarily on the enormity of the weight of the assignment and could I really pull it off? And if you happen to find yourself in a place similar to that right now, I want to say to you what my spirit said to me. If you are called, you are already equipped. Because that's what I realized, that this Moses moment was a realization that I was in fact ready for the enormity of the assignment. Why? You might be wondering, because I asked myself this, do we even have Moses moments? And as best as I can answer for you, I'm certainly not the authority by any stretch of the imagination. But as best as I can answer for you, the reason we have Moses moments, I believe are for 2 reasons. Number 1, to be a purpose check. I believe 2 things happen when your next level is present. Number 1, I believe that fear sets in first. And I would lump this Moses moment into that fear. And then I believe the second thing that happens is that all hell breaks loose. There's an uprising. There's an uproar. You're literally rearranging the universe. And when the universe is rearranging, the good and the bad all come to a head and show up in your life experience. That's what I believe happens. And I believe we encounter Moses moments to be an indication that the purpose for which we were created is deeper, it's bigger, it's greater, and we are on the verge of encompassing an ability to walk out in it. And once these Moses moments come up for you, like they've come up for me, here's what I do. And I wanted to I believe success leaves clues. You know that because you're hanging out with me. If you're brand new, this is your first time listening, welcome. And you'll come to learn that I believe that success leaves clues. And I do, in fact, always want to give you some success clues of how to navigate this, right? And so if you find yourself in a Moses moment, there are 3 things that I think you need to do to be able to get to the other side where you're no longer overwhelmed by it, but instead you're in position to be obedient to it so that you can open up the overflow that wants to come into your life experience when you do what has been assigned to only you to do that caused you the doubt and the overwhelm in the first place. Number 1, recount the assignment. Run it back. Because see, often when we're in the midst of the assignment being downloaded, we stop listening. We check out once we get to the point where it's a little scary and it's outside of our comfort zone. So the first thing you have to do is you have to run it back. Clearly understand what you heard that needs to be done. And I want you to filter it through nothing. Hear it for what it is without your interpretation or what you think it means. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make when you have been called to a Moses-esque assignment is to try to contemplate how to fulfill the assignment. And the reason it's one of the hardest things that you could do and the biggest mistakes you can make is because the how is not your job. It's God's job. And if you're going to do his job, then what is he here for? Right? So that's the first thing. Run it back. The second thing you want to do is after you run it back and you've written down what you heard, begin to ask yourself questions for the sake of the clarity of what it is you are perceiving to validate that your perception is the reality of the assignment. Did you catch that? Taking the time to ask yourself the questions, very important in this particular process, because we need to know that you understand the assignment, right? And again, this is the questions for the clarity of the assignment, not beginning to try to formulate how to complete the assignment. Because again, if it's been given to you, it's because you are in fact equipped to handle it. But instead, we just want to make sure that you get it, that you've understood and you've broken it down in such a way that you completely understand what is being asked of you. And then number 3, do just the first thing that you know to do because you've run it back and you've asked those clarifying questions to yourself and to your spirit to be able to formulate the next step, one step at a time. God will give you more while you're moving than he ever will if you stand still. And so it's just taking that very first step. Or as the Rumi quote says, the path emerges as you walk it. So the GPS, you just have to know the assignment where you're going in order for it to calculate the destination and get there. And so that is the best way for you to move through a Moses moment. But just remember, again, if you are finding yourself in a Moses moment, you should really celebrate, because that means that you are chosen. You are equipped, and there are so many people who are counting on you. That is so awesome. Like when I sit back, take myself out of the equation, don't let my ego threaten me and derail me, but just to sit in the significance of what I'm being tasked to do. It is a realization that I really am thebomb.com, that I really can transform in whichever way I'm being asked to do in that moment. And Moses moments are designed to give you a level of comfort with the power that you possess to be able to deliver and set other people free. Inside of the work that you do in your business, yeah, you have to know. And in case you didn't know, let me just further break this down for you so that you know your work is not just about the title that you give yourself, because that title is just for you anyway. Your work is about the transformational power that you possess in your pinky toe, and knowing boldly, flat-footedly, confidently that when you show up fully and play full out in that gift, you will deliver and set free. If you didn't know the story of Moses, the task that he was given was to go to Pharaoh and to get Pharaoh to let the children of Israel who had been serving as servants and slaves to go so that they could be released to the promised land, the land that was flowing with milk and honey, the land that is the equivalent to the abundance for which in the New Testament, Jesus came and gave his life so that the abundance doesn't stop flowing. That was the task. And despite his stutter, his stammer, and his disbelief in himself, because he didn't see himself the way that God had always seen him, he was equipped for the assignment. And so I say to you, whatever the assignment is that you're questioning, and I even say this to myself, because you know sometimes you have to encourage yourself, right? Whatever the assignment is, if it was brought into your life experience, if it was given to you as an edict, as a mandate, it is because you are the fulfiller of it. You are the one who can bring it to pass. So once you understand that and are able to come to grips with the fact that God's ways are not your ways, and the way he sees you is the truth of who you are, then it'll open up an opportunity for you to leverage that particular experience in order to shift the lives of those that you've been called to with that particular assignment. And so I vacillated. I had those moments when I was just like, yo, Lord, maybe you should send someone else. I don't know if I'm really equipped for this. And God was very clear and told me, no, I called you because this is what you have been doing for so long. It felt limiting. It took me all the way back to I remember when I was first starting my business and people were saying you should establish a niche. And I was like, oh, but if you say you only serve certain people, you're leaving so much money on the table. It took me all the way back to that same lack-minded space temporarily. Because whenever you allow your fear to do the talking for you, your fear is always going to show up in lack. It is always going to be lack-based. And so I found myself in those moments really questioning if I could do it, but simultaneously getting the courage to speak out loud that I could in fact do it. And you know the rest of the story, right? That was October 23rd, 2020. By February, we had started the rebranding process because I became fully convinced in my own mind that I was the girl for the job and that I had already been equipped to fulfill it in a way that would shift and change lives. That was unbeknownst to me that we were actually going to have 10 clients in 2021 that crossed the $1 million mark. I didn't know that. I didn't know that when we started. I didn't know that when I made my yes a yes for real. I was just going to go. And I truly believe that that's just the beginning. I believe that in 2022, we will create even more $1 million CEOs. All because I first decided to have this Moses moment and to see it as an opportunity to show up fully in the gifts and talents that God placed on the inside of me to do the work that I was in fact called to do. And I just want to encourage you to see it the same way. If for whatever reason you are stuck there and you need some support being able to see it that way, listen, I just want to again invite you to move to Millions Live. It is our annual 3-day live event. It happens in May of every year. I'm going to put a little asterisk there because it will only change if something like a COVID-19, which happened in 2020, prevents us from being able to do it. We didn't have an event in 2021 because we were rebranding. So this May is going to be our first time doing this event. Although I am no veteran to live events, we have completely remastered and reinvented and reinvigorated the live event. It will be a reckoning for your soul and for your spirit and your business. You will come into alignment financially and spiritually, and you'll be equipped with the tactical strategies that are necessary for you to actually stake your claim on $1 million business as soon as this year. Because yes, you can get to the $1 million mark in 1 year. There are specific conditions that need to be met. I'll share them in another episode, but you can absolutely get to the $1 million mark in 1 year. It's totally possible for you. And your Moses moment was designed to show you that you are it. You are whom he sent to equip, to edify, to empower, and to establish in the lives, businesses, health, relationships, whichever area you work in, to establish for those that you've been called to exactly what is necessary to go to the next level in your life. So I say, here's to Moses moments. Here's to moments when you realize that you've been called to do something really, really great, something incredible, something that is going to shake the planet. And I wish you many Moses moments over the years to come. I'll see you next time. Take care. Thank you for joining me for the Move to Millions podcast. If, after listening to this episode, you're ready to stop playing and praying small, you should go grab my Plan for Millions bundle. One thing I know for sure is that before you can make the move, you've got to have the plan. If you enjoyed our time together, do yourself a favor. Head on over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Until next time, remember, millions are your birthright, and to access them, all you have to do is move. Take care.